everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and I've got the October Scrawlrbox here. This is the UK's monthly art subscription box, so we are just going to get straight in and see what is inside. And this is what has come in the box. We've got our Scrawler zine that gives you some art inspiration and talks a little bit about the supplies. We've got our Scrawlrbox sticker which matches the artwork from the featured artist. A Faber-Castell kneaded eraser, our card that tells us more about the supplies, some A5 marker paper, not one, not two, but 3 Copic sketch markers over in the premium this month, a Unipin Fineliner and a Faber-Castell pencil, as well as a sweet which looks remarkably like a rhubarb and custard. First of all, let's talk about the supplies. So we've got the Copic sketch markers in 3 specific shades: strong red, aqua and canary yellow. And the Copic sketch markers are very similar to the Copic chow markers. They've just got a bigger barrel and they come in a larger range of colours. But they share the same characteristics in that we have this amazing brush tip, and this is one of my favourite brush tips on the market. But we also have a chisel nib at the other end, which is a sort of medium size, so it's not too chunky and clumsy. I absolutely love the Copic sketch markers. I'm not a huge marker fan, but I have a lot of these pens. And just on that note, I already am in possession of these 2 colours, so I will put these on the stash shop, and when it comes to do the Scrawler challenge, I will use my own ones, so these will be new and unused. So they're professional quality art and graphics, twin-tipped alcohol markers, fantastic for all your fine art requirements. These pens feature a soft and flexible brush nib, favourite, that is ideal for detailed work and variable width strokes, as well as a chisel nib that is great for filling in large blocks of colour. These versatile pens will layer and blend perfectly and are highly favoured amongst marker artists. These markers are alcohol based with saturated and long lasting ink, and they're also refillable, so your pens should last forever. And the one thing I will say is the blendability of alcohol markers, I have found personally, depends very much on the paper that you use them on, but we'll come to that in a minute. So let's talk about the Unipin Fineliner, and this is a 0.3 nib. This fine line pen features a smooth flowing pigment ink that is waterproof once dry, note that, once dry, and fade proof even in continuous exposure to light. It is ideal for all types of art and design, including sketching and detailed technical drawing. A steel supported polyacryl nib. This is the metal casing that you see round the end of the nib here. And that basically protects it so that if it's one of the more delicate sizes, it's not going to splay and, bend and pop back in. I do have these in the stash shop, so if you try this out and you do like them, I have these in a variety of nib widths and also a small selection of colours as well. The Faber-Castell Grip 2001 pencil, it's got knobbly bobbly bits on it, which feels quite nice. It does feel like quite a cheap pencil, and this is a 2B. Extremely popular amongst the art community. The Grip 2001 pencil is easily recognisable with its ergonomic triangular shape. Yes, it has a triangular barrel. It features the iconic and distinctive non-slip comfort grip for guaranteed fatigue-free use. Now that's quite interesting as a person who struggles with motor function in my hand. I actually find triangular barrels cause me more stress than hexagonal ones, so I'll be really interested to try this out just for myself to see if it does do any better with the grip situation. So that's quite interesting just on a personal level. The surface coating is also made from environmentally friendly water-based paint, technology first introduced by Faber-Castell. Oh, that's interesting. It's no wonder that this pencil has won 6 design awards. Recommended retail price £1.20. The kneaded eraser. A good kneadable eraser should be a staple in every artist's kit, I agree. They're fantastic for erasing detailed areas as they can be easily moulded into any shape you require. This Faber-Castell eraser is kneadable and absorbent and will leave no residue or eraser shavings behind. It's supplied in a flip-top case to keep the eraser clean and safe. If, like me, you've got animals, this is a godsend. I also already own one of these, so I'll demonstrate again, as I said with the Copics, with the one I've already got, and I'll leave this one nice and fresh and clean and stick it in the stash shop for you. The marker pad, 10 sheets. Now this is what I'm most interested in because it's what's going to affect how well these bad boys work when it comes to blending. Acid-free paper works beautifully with pen, pencil and alcohol markers and is specially formulated to prevent ink from bleeding or seeping through. This paper allows for colour richness and vibrancy, is the perfect partner for your Copic markers. So the main characteristics of marker paper that I look for is number one, that bleed-through factor, because that's what you don't want, especially if you're working on a pad or a precious surface underneath, which isn't advisable. at how smooth the paper is, because it tends to be the smoother it is, the easier it is to blend, but also how absorbent the paper is. If the paper is too absorbent, the ink soaks in really quickly and dries, and it's difficult to get those blends that they were talking about. On the other hand, if the paper isn't absorbent at all, alcohol ink just slides over the top of it and you end up with smudges and like almost like pools of ink. So it's a very, very delicate balance. So I'm looking forward to testing this paper out and see how it fares. So in addition to that, we have our featured artist here, and this is a lovely artwork. I really enjoy the colours that they've used here. You will see that we may be able to make some of these colours by layering and blending some of our markers, but I'm convinced that it was probably more at play. And it's Alexandra Olivia, visual artist known for her colourful and intricate illustration. Yes, definitely. So if you'd like to check out more about Alexandra, her Instagram handle is down at the bottom and you can go and check out more of her work. And we have our sticker that matches the featured artist, and I like to play the jigsaw game. This one's fairly obvious. It's a little scaled down version of this bit in the middle. Okay, so we've got our Scrawler zine here, so let's see what else is going on in the Scrawlerverse. Do you like that, Scrawlerverse? So this first page is just a sort of overview of what's going on. It does say, when it's talking about the artist print down here, it does say that the artist has used additional colours, and I'm really glad that they've put that in. The sweet treat is, it's pear flavoured. It's vegetarian, gluten-free and gelatin-free, so suitable for our vegan friends as well. As per usual, Mr. Jem will be getting mine because I don't have much of a sweet tooth. So there's a few wee comments about the different supplies that have come in the box. And then we have a sit down with the October featured artist, and look at her work. Oh my goodness. It is absolutely amazing. Like, this is lovely. It's something that I would never ever do myself. It's just not my style, but looking at this just makes me so happy because it's so colourful. So there's a nice wee interview with some questions there that you can have a read through in your own time. And we've got some scrawler tips for the markers. Being someone that's not a huge marker fan, this is going to be helpful to me. I would like to think that I'm reasonably proficient with them. It's just not a medium I use very often. So understand the colour code. Each marker has a code that corresponds with its colour to help you find specific hues and blend colours nicely. So this is actually really good that they're explaining that in here. So we'll take this one, they do all have colour names, so this one is Aqua, but there is a code that's BG15 on the top of it as well. So the first letter in the code represents the colour family, so R is red, Y is yellow, BG is blue-green. The first digit refers to the colour saturation, so the higher the number, the lower the transparency is. The rest of the digits indicate the brightness, with 000 representing the brightest colour and 9 the darkest. So for example here we've got our BG15, so the saturation is 1, so it's quite a transparent colour, and the brightness is 5, so it's in the middle. It's not too dark and it's not too light. Blending and layering. Blending is a great way to achieve smooth colour gradation. I personally like to start with the darkest colour. This is the artist, not I as in Jem. I personally like to start with the darkest colour before gradually adding the lighter colours in. You can also try out layering or blending different colours to create more variation. Yeah, you can create different shades by layering up. You know, if you layered your yellow over your blue-green, you're going to get a green. If you only have one marker or limited colour options, you can still create more depth to your drawing by adding layers. The more layers that you add, the darker or more intense the colour is, and this technique is great for shading. Start with the first layer and add more layers only to the area where you want it to be darker. We'll demonstrate that just shortly. It mentions coloured pencils as well. This is something that I quite like to do when I am doing my adult colouring videos. You can lay down a layer of marker as just a base layer, and then you can build pencil up on top of it. If you've got a large image or large areas to cover, it's an excellent way, and it gives you really vibrant results. It's really, really good. I have done a video on that somewhere. If I remember, I'll link it down in the description and I'll stick it in the end card so you can see the effect of colour pencil on the top of marker. Don't forget to experiment and have fun. Remember, there is no right or wrong when it comes to creating art. Most importantly, have fun. Okay, I'd like to add something to that as well. You can actually dilute alcohol markers. Alcohol dilutes alcohol unless it's the drinking kind, as someone made that quip once before. So if you have, I use surgical spirit, so I keep forgetting what you guys in the US call it, rubbing alcohol. You can actually squeak this onto a ceramic palette and you can add rubbing alcohol or surgical spirit to it to dilute it down, and then you can use a paintbrush and you can paint with it, and it gives you a nice sort of painterly watercolour effect too. Things to try. Copic markers are refillable and the tips are replaceable. Keep them once they're out of ink to refill and use again. You can even mix them to create unique colours. For the uninitiated, this is what one of the refills look like. So it comes in a bottle, and I'm sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm sure one of these bottles refills your pen multiple times. There's actually a little, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. If I tilt it in the light maybe. There's actually a little measurement up the side here, so you can see how many millilitres you're actually squeezing into your marker. Literally all you do is, you can use tweezers if you're gentle, but Copic actually do a tool, and you just pull out the chisel nib, and this has got like a really long fine point on it, and you basically just shove that down the barrel of the marker and you squeeze it until it fills up. You do have to go cautiously with that, but it's really easy to do. You can do it yourself. It's not rocket science. For seamless coverage, slowly work your marker in small circular movements across the area that you are colouring. So that's like a scumbling motion in pencil. It's best to use the brush nibbed end of the marker to blend. Mix different colours into each other with small circular movements, kind of like massaging them into each other, okay? You can also use a feathering technique. Hold the brush side of the marker at a slight angle to feather it out to create smooth shading and gradients. For best results, blend while the ink is still damp and settling onto the page. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the paper earlier. The kneadable eraser can be used to remove unwanted pencil marks under your artwork. Lightly dab or roll over your pencil lines to take away the dark lines. This will leave you with a subtle outline to start your colouring. If you prefer to do your line work with the Fineliner first, wait for it to completely dry to avoid unwanted smudging. It's worth noting yellow ink pens are notorious for being extra smudgy, so use this pen with a bit more care. I didn't know that. I say every day's a school day. So here is the Scrawler gallery, and this one is the Digital Dystopia. I absolutely loved this prompt. It took me a long time to think about it, but I really enjoyed it. And I really like this one down here. It's given me a Zelda Breath of the Wild vibes. If any of you have ever played that game, you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's probably my favourite actually out of all of them. Someone's done 1984 as well. I like that because I kind of went for like an Orwellian feel as well. I really liked the Molotov markers as well. I really enjoyed them and I've continued to use them, so that says a lot. Movie magic. So there's a bit about animation here. There's a little genie coming out of the bottle. They're talking about Disney. There's a surprise. So that's quite a nice little back page. This is the Scrawler Extra, just to up your art knowledge. Okay, finally the moment of truth. We'll take a look and see what the Scrawler Challenge prompt is. Now, just in my mind, having seen this part in the back and this artwork, it might be like an animation or magic prompt. So let's find out. Out of the lamp. Okay, almost magical. If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? This box is all about bringing them out of the lamp and onto the page. Use these super blendable markers to envision the delights your genie would grant you. Switch up the width, layer up. What new colours can you create? See where it takes you for this magical inspired prompt. That's really cool. That's actually a really fun prompt. I'm impressed. This month I will do the prompt challenge separately from the unboxing, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that in the next week or so. In the meantime, let's get down to testing out these supplies. Okay, so let's do a little bit of testing. As I expected, this paper is so smooth. It's bright white. It's very smooth, and I'm deliberately leaving it on the pad because I want to test out that bleed theory that they were talking about. So first of all, let's have a wee go with the pencil, and I don't know. I don't know. So it's a 2B, so we should have a level of softness. Now again, this probably isn't such a big thing because we're going to be using markers, so we're really not going to be doing much in the way of shading. And again, the paper isn't going to do a 2B pencil much in the way of favours either, because graphite needs something to grip. And obviously this being very smooth, and it is going to smudge a little bit, and that's going to travel further again because this is smooth paper, because again that graphite's kind of sitting on top of the paper a little bit more than it would say with cartridge paper. But we can still get a decent bit of depth. The pencil itself feels nice. It does feel a bit kind of hollow, and that gives it like a sort of cheap feeling. But if it's a pencil that works for you, especially, you know, if you do like a triangular grip, then by all means. So I'm going to kind of mash that down there a little bit, and I can show you what the eraser is like in just a moment. The Fineliner, these are really reliable. I like them, that's why I stock them in my shop. The ink flow is really good on them. They're super reliable, but they feel quite robust as well. You know, they feel quite sturdy for a fine liner. There's absolutely no issues with it. I like the richness of the black ink as well. I found with some fine liners in the past that the black, once it's dried, it looks like a really dark sort of greyish colour, and some of them have even got all this weird like blue tint in them. Again, the paper itself is going to affect that though, but in terms of a fine liner, I really, really like these, and I also trust them to not smudge as well because I've used them in the past. So I'm really pleased that we've got one of those. Haha. Okay, let's start by showing you the different nibs. So this is the Canary Yellow. Oh, I was going to swap these out, wasn't I? Swap them out, Gem. Okay, so here's two of my slightly more battered ones. So we'll start with the Canary Yellow. I've tucked the other ones out the way so I don't get them mixed up. Right, let's start with the chisel nib. You can see there you've got quite a wide stroke, and the brush nib is amazing. So you can get nice, thin, delicate little lines. And if you just press down a tiny bit, you can get some really expressive strokes as well. I'm going to have to leave mine upside down so that some of the ink drains to the chisel nib. I literally never use a chisel nib, and it looks as if it's kind of struggling a wee bit there. So I'll just leave that up on its end. Oh, this is what happens when you use your own supplies. That's quite commonplace with twin-tipped markers, and it's why they always tell you to store the markers horizontally so that all your ink isn't saturating one nib, it's just kind of lying in the middle. But so I'll let that one do its thing. Let's see if I got on better with the strong red. Oh, it's just so amazing. I love these brush nibs, and they're really, really robust as well. Like, they're really sturdy. There's quite a lot of markers that I've tried that have got really nice brush nibs, but they start to fray really quickly. These have excellent build quality. Okay, much better with this one. So again, if we twist and turn our chisel nib, we can get different nib widths. But as they said in the description, you can cover a large area quite quickly. Oh, that's a lovely colour, look at that. Now, I'm glad to see that they've given us the primary colours as well, so we can try a bit of layering and mixing if we want to get adventurous. So anyway, that's the characteristics of the nib. Now, the next thing I'm kind of wanting to look at is the actual paper. Now, I was talking about the absorbency. So if I, in the good old Scottish phrase, if I leather down some of this ink and sit it down, I want to see how long it's sitting on the paper for, and I can just see it. It's sitting on the paper momentarily. It's not very long though. This could be interesting. So you can see there who they were talking about layering up a single colour. If I just do that again and just let that sink in a little minute. And then in this bottom part, if I go back over some of it, there's 2 layers. So you can see the difference between the two already. So you are going to get richer colour. It's quite good with the darker colours as well because you can actually see it drying on the paper. The ink's starting to slide about on the paper now, so I think I've reached saturation point, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects the bleed through. But you can see the difference between the two there. So you can create some really nice effects just with one marker. Let's see if my yellow chisel nib was feeling a bit better. Yeah, there we go. Good stuff, right? Okay. So let's try a little bit of blendability here and see how we go. If I'm going to do this, I always take the lids off first so that I'm ready. Again, just not having great motor function with this hand. This gets a bit hairy for me sometimes, but it's fun. I usually end up with inadvertent extra marks from dropping pens and things, but we'll see how we go. I like to start with a lighter colour. I'm going to whiz some of that down on the paper, and then immediately I'm going to switch to my red. And I'm going to stick that in there, and I can go back to my yellow now. That line is not blending out. Now you'll see there is red on the end of this nib. It's absolutely fine. You literally just get a piece of paper. It may stain slightly, but it doesn't affect the colour once you've got the red off of that tip. Again, it's back to that thing that alcohol dilutes alcohol. If you look at the end of my marker now, there is not a hint of red anywhere on that. The blendability here, I would say, is more down to the paper. You can see quite clearly that red line, and I don't think I would be able to blend that out. So if you wanted to try the feathered effect, the way they're talking about that is you put your colour down like this sort of idea. Maybe not, no, my technique's probably not great. And then you can stick that in there. But see, again, the same thing. You're not really getting what I would suggest is the best sort of transition there. So let's try a bit of layering up as well, just while we're here. So I'll stick down some of my yellow. These colours are so bright, they're lovely. I really like this. If we wait till one side's dry and then we put this over the top, you can see there we've got green in the middle. So that allows you to make yourself some new colours. If I put the red over the top of this and let it dry, you can see that the colours change there as well. It's not as obvious. Sometimes they work better the other way around. I'm just going to try that out for my own benefit as well. I mean, the ink is still drying fairly quickly. You know, you're not having to wait an age for it to dry. But this paper did not like my blending. The paper's buckled slightly there, so that's just something for you to bear in mind. So if I take that over the top there, we're changing the colour slightly, but not drastically. The moment of truth. Oh, would you look at that? There is not a single speck of alcohol ink on this second page. And if I just show you the back here, very, very rarely do you get marker paper that you can use on both sides. When they're talking about bleed through, they mean onto another sheet of paper. You usually get this show on the back, and that's just generally the way it works. I'm sure there are one or two brands that do say that you can use both sides and you won't be able to see any outlines from the other side. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, please feel free to pipe up in the comments, because I can't for the life of me remember the brand names. But this is good. I'm impressed with this. This is excellent, because I mean, especially in this blended part and where I did the multiple layers, I mean, I was hammering the paper with that, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to hold on to this. I'm not going to let it disappear. So absolute thumbs up for the marker paper. Lastly, I'm just going to grab my Faber-Castell eraser. So here it is. You can see mine's been well used. It's picked up a lot of graphite already. I do draw mostly in pencil though, so that's to be expected. Just to show you the colour difference, you can see mine looks really grubby, and that's just because it's picked up graphite. When these start to get used up, I'll use that term loosely, what happens is when you try to erase, you actually transfer graphite back onto your paper, and that's when you know it's time to replace them. I'm not at that stage yet with this, but basically they just get darker and darker until they can't take any more graphite. So as they said, you know, the good thing about these is you can manipulate them into any sort of shape. So you can like really erase tiny spots. They are quite hard to begin with, but the heat from your hands will help soften it, and then they become malleable. Basically, because you've got a case, you can just squish it back in and shut the lid, and things like dog hair are not going to stick to it. Bearing in mind I've pressed really hard with this second pass of pencil, so I'm just going to go straight through the middle in a rubbing motion the way you would with a normal eraser. And you can see there, that's taken away a significant chunk, even down here. So if you need to really, you know, if you've made a mistake, that's the way you would want to erase. You'd want to give it a rub. If you've drawn an outline and you just want to make it as faint as possible, you can either put it into a sausage and you can roll it over the top of it, and that gives you a much more subtle way of getting rid of it. Or I like to use this, it's like, I call it like the dab and roll. So you put it down and then just kind of rock it back and forth. So if I just concentrate on this little section here. So you can see that's significantly lighter than what's going on over here. So that's the kind of best way to use them. All right then. Well, overall, I'm really pleased with the supplies in this month's box. I think this is a really good box, and we've got a lovely prompt to go with it as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the box. I'd also really interested to know if you prefer this format for the unboxing videos. I'm doing a wee bit of experimenting, so if you have any comments or you have a preference, then if you could let me know in the comments, that would be great. If you don't have time for that, you can just stick a thumbs up on it if you like this one better. That would be great also. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay safe, take care of each other, keep your eye out for the Scrawler Challenge video coming soon, and I'll see you back in the cave on Thursday for another video. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye for now.